All right. I'm Dan Cohen, resident metaphysician, resident economist, resident philosopher, resident poor dresser of the Sons of Trier. And on tonight's episode, we plan on teaching you just a little bit about the relationship of NFTs and crypto to the general economy. And I'd like to start with this. There is nothing about this situation at all that has already not been predicted by Karl Marx. A cursory reading of Das Kapital is infinitely more superior to understanding capitalist economics than all the Econ fucking courses in the world.
Straight up.
That's it. Unequivocally the foundational text. And as it is appropriate tonight, I will be the one taking you through parts of that text that apply. Probably not by page number because I haven't bothered to memorize it by page number. It's not a Bible. But it is a foundational textbook, and goddamn you, I told you not to interrupt me. I said no comment. If you're sorry, you'd stop talking. If you were sorry, you wouldn't be talking. I said I wanted one clean intro. And if you had been reading your theory and you had been reading your Karl Marx, you would understand how goddamn pissed I am right now. And with that, again, I'm Dan Cohen, the real American Hebrew, the Uber Jew, the Jewish flu, a Jew through and through, joined by Jank Engels, John Sinclair, and True Horror. Let's go ahead and talk about this shit. Go ahead, boys. Bring us in.
Ooh. What is up?
What's going on?
Would you like me to do I'm going to make this as brief as I can, overview of what these things are in essence?
It's token. It's not fungible. It's pretty straightforward. I don't understand.
Chat, I'll start.
I don't understand the confusion.
I'm going to start you with your first econ lesson right now. There's something called reification. It's where we infuse inanimate objects with some sort of moral value, among other things.
Like its fungibility.
NFT and crypto are not inherently bad. They're not inherently good. They are things. And tonight we're going to understand how those things operate.
And then, slowly but surely, Dan will utilize his language in such a way that it makes it sound like he is insisting that there is, in fact, some inherent good or bad to them.
That's because you're dumb.
I don't know if that's the case.
That's because you're dumb. If I say that guns are utilized to kill 40,000 people...
but that's why that's happening.
If I say that guns are used to kill millions of people each year, you're like, well, it sounds like you're making a moral argument. That's your problem, that you are confusing facts for moral judgments. Now, I would make a moral judgment on the basis of, I don't think people should be dying, and guns are used to kill people, so I think it's bad. But when you go, oh, it sounds like it's bad, that's your problem. That's on you. You have to learn how to overcome the moral judgments. I already did.
Yeah.
I've been trying to teach you for 2 years. You can say sure. You know what the sure is? When you say sure like that, you know what that is? That's you being petty. You gotta live like a goddamn man. Friedrich Nietzsche style. Say what you fucking mean.
I don't have to do anything. I'm certain of that.
Let me put it to you like this. When it comes to aggression, there's passive aggression and actual aggression. Okay? And Nietzsche hated passive aggression. That's why I am the way I am.
Mm-hmm.
Now go ahead, John. Take us into the topic very briefly.
So I really will do my best to be brief about this, because this is one of those topics where, like, part of how they trick people is overloading you all at once with information and then saying the only people who are against us just don't understand it. They're too stupid to understand it. You're not against us, are you? You're not stupid, are you?
Yeah.
So I'm going to be as brief as I can.
Yeah, I am.
That's it, though. That's that MLM shit, too.
Yeah. So, it really is. But here's what it is. Cryptocurrency is nothing more than an append-only ledger. Imagine a book that has like a mercantile era book of everybody who pays money to a store. Imagine a situation where this book is magical. You can't erase anything. You can't cross anything out. all you can do is write new text at the bottom and update entries that already exist. That's all you
God.
can do.
That sounds like that would
Almost like
revolutionize
they were
everything.
forged in
Oh,
chains.
It would make everything so fair, though. You'd never be able to cheat anybody again. It would all become fair.
What
Right,
the
because
way,
people don't cook their books ever.
so
Well, they used to, but now they can't anymore.
the
That's
way
what this sounds like.
the way cryptocurrency works is, and this is part of NFTs. I can't explain NFTs without cryptocurrency. These things are like one and the same. I will get to why they're completely intertwined in a second. But essentially, this is an append-only database, and the way that you make sure that you can't spend the same dollar twice or take a new add money to the system that wasn't already there, the way you can't fake anything, essentially. The way that they make sure that you can't do this with cryptocurrency is that they have a server that is dedicated to verifying when a new transaction goes through. So when you go to transfer your money from one person to the other to buy a thing, you submit that request to a server in this case, but in most cases it's many. You submit it to a server, and the server has to exercise a cryptographic math problem to verify that you've spent the money. And these math problems exist in emails, for example, because they don't. In order to make sure that people aren't sending out tons of spam mails, every time you send an email, your computer has to complete a small math problem. And the idea is, if you're sending one email, it's not a big deal. If you're sending 10,000 emails, that small math problem is a big deal. You can't overload things. Will still be able to be traded with dollars. So if the servers cease to exist, I'm just answering the question from chat. If the servers cease to exist, which I'll get to in a second, but if that were to happen, then you wouldn't be able to trade crypto anymore. So they would effectively sit on your machine just unusable. Because again, in order to verify that money has been sent from one wallet to another, these servers have to perform proof of work, basically. They have to process a problem, and that is how the ledger is appended to all of the different servers at once. And in order to make sure that all of the servers keep up with the same information at once, what ends up happening is when you submit for a transaction, every server simultaneously competes with each other to be the one that gets to confirm that that transaction happened. And then the server that completes the transaction first is rewarded with a little bit of Bitcoin as a result. And essentially, the way that they make sure that no cheating happens is that all the servers compete to do the same exact work at the same time. This is why they say it's so wasteful, because only one server's work matters at the end of the day. Every other server that was trying to confirm it, that couldn't confirm it to begin with, they all fail. Anyway, this is how cryptocurrency is traded. It's in an append-only ledger. The servers compete with each other. The one that confirms the transaction first, it's rewarded with a little bit of extra Bitcoin.
Sounds like, do you know from what you've done research so far, do you know if there are any like lag or latency issues or any kind of check on that? Because this sounds an awful lot like who shot who in the face on Rainbow Six or something. Right? Like, that's kind of wild.
They guarantee that there's no issues with it. Don't you worry.
So you can most servers like distribute processing across like actually multiple locations, and if you do that thing, sometimes you see influencers trying to get you like, oh, if you have like a phone, you can like hook your phone up to a charger and have it like mine Bitcoin for you. Whenever you do stuff like that, you're just essentially joining a larger processing group that is all trying to. You're essentially giving your processing power to them, and they're paying out a small amount. So there are multiple groups, for what it's worth, among cryptocurrency that run multiple servers, and those servers are all conjoined in such a way that they work together to solve and count for the same for solving a particular transaction confirmation, essentially.
Okay, so that communal nature would strike out.
Yeah, you can. If one now, of course, the thing is, if a server is just like one giant server room in fucking Iceland, and a bunch of people who've hooked their phones up to essentially assist with the processing power of that, and then the server room goes down, you're not going to win that fucking competition. Essentially, that's you're never going to win another competition. You're not getting any fucking payouts as a result. But what's important is the reason that you pay for all of your NFTs with Ethereum and not Bitcoin is because Ethereum essentially allows for tiny applets to be added to this append-only ledger. Essentially, lines of code as opposed to just balance information and wallet information.
Would
These
that be
lines
their,
of
their
code.
precious smart contracts?
Yes, that's what a smart contract is. It's a very misleading term. Because these smart contracts can't host more than like a large Word document's worth of text or code. Yeah, no, I mean they're incredibly small, and very cumbersome as a result. So the reason also that it becomes, this is another note. The reason that it becomes difficult, more and more difficult over time, you need more and more power to process every transaction on the blockchain, is that notice that when you do proof of work verification and you confirm a transaction happens, the server owner also gets to append that they earned a little bit more Bitcoin, which makes the ledger larger progressively. The current estimate is that, at least for Bitcoin, somewhere in the realm of oh god, what was it? Shit, I don't remember the figure. I think it's 1 terabyte of information is added to the ledger. This is mostly text, for what it's worth. But 1 terabyte of information is added to the ledger every month. That is
a massive amount of information.
Yeah, that compounds very quickly. So the ledger, by the way,
very briefly to put it in comparison, I had about 2 terabytes of Japanese pornography to my ledger about every week.
That's also insane, but not quite as insane as the Bitcoin. That's expected more or less out of you.
Secure ledger, though, that gets frequent updates. That's a secure ledger.
Oh yeah, if you could get your hands on that ledger, it would be probably the best. It might be worth its own form of cryptocurrency.
It might even just be worth that much Japanese pornography. So keep that.
It
in
might.
mind. By the way,
it might even just be worth it as Japanese pornography.
To dumb this down, if I'm understanding it right, this is basically you exchange your money for play money, and then what happens is when you go to make a payment, 19 credit card companies fight over who verified the payment was made.
Yes, and I want to note that is the easiest way to put it, because the difference is
this is a 101 course, I remind you, and there will be a test at the end, so we need to make it easy enough for the students who are learning.
And I want to illustrate the the sort of the mechanics of this, because a lot of the pitches as to why it would be good, why the system is good, are predicated on whoever you're pitching it to not understanding how it works in the first place. And once you understand a couple of these very basic concepts with how it works, you can see how much bullshit it is. Let's see. Who's the one who buys the graphics cards for crypto mining? Isn't it?
Well, those graphics cards are all just tiny computers. A lot of people buy them.
So now this is an important thing about who the winners are here. This is the infrastructure required
I think we can save that for the end once we explain how the machine works.
Yeah, well,
and how it relates to economics.
what's in to just briefly touch on what you posted there. The most important aspect you have to remember is that you got to add a terabyte of information to this, and the cryptographic sequences that I was talking about, that is part of proof of work verification, that is how they confirm you made the purchase. Those are done with the graphics cards. They're extremely expensive. You probably noticed that the graphics cards have skyrocketed in price as of late. And here's the other thing too. If you hook up your cell phone to like a power cord and then just hook it up to your Wi-Fi and let that shit mine, right? You don't get any fucking vote. You don't actually control the server that you're contributing to. A company, a private company does. And they're allowing you to join in, and they pay you like a pittance for however much your phone or your computer contributed to that.
This is a stunning twist. It's starting to sound like that the guys that have the most capital to invest from jump are going to make the most capital from this process.
Again,
this is
I think we're getting to spoilers because we need to understand
that
what
is a
this
spoiler.
thing is really.
That's a twist ending.
Yeah. But
is it really a twist ending though?
It is. I didn't see that coming. I thought that this was a chance for the little guy. I thought this was a chance for the little guy to finally get ahead. A lot of guys at my old job thought that.
Yeah, how'd that turn out for them?
Not well.
Not great, I imagine. NFTs are basically just lines of code that are on Ethereum blockchain specifically, that normally, when people joke about right-click saving, most of the time the reason that your computer is able to download those images in the first place is because it's a link to an image that's hosted on a server, as opposed to like actually being like the code of a JPEG or something like that, like the constituent parts of a JPEG. Right. It's almost never that. Because if your NFT, like, how do I put this? NFTs are about making as little effort as possible to have this stuff work. So almost none of them are like, how do I put this? In order to actually host like a JPEG on chain, it would be such a large upfront cost to the person creating the NFT that they all just fucking host it on a server. So like that's usually how that kind of thing works.
It's starting to sound like that the JPEG is just a cute little rebranding of this gross crypto shit that already existed and already was taking a lot of flack. I mean, shit.
It almost is.
So the one of the main points here though is that it's often pitched that that the emancipatory thing that this ledger would give you would be an immutable list of data about the entire population that everybody will have to use. You can host deeds, medical information, all data could be hosted on the chain. It couldn't be edited by anybody or manipulated in any way. And that this would be more desirable than our current system.
Boy, that last part is real specific.
Well, I've heard them make the argument
a fundamental problem.
I've heard them make the argument that it's not only more desirable but also inevitable. Like these crypto bros tell me that I'm just like my grandma who wouldn't use email or whatever. Like they say inevitable too, not just more desirable.
I mean, you are, but not about the crypto stuff.
Yeah, it's about the fact that you fucking a clan robe. That's what makes you.
Hey, listen. I've been doing a lot of weird stuff. I got the Omicron, all right?
I know.
Happy Omicrons.
Happy Omicron.
Anything I do right now, it's not me, okay? Guys,
the
it's
Omicron.
I would not. So here's the thing.
Your yogurt fucking container. It's the Omicron.
And this is where I want to get Dan's input, because this is the most specifically this particular point I'm the most interested in. And Dan might have to pull back a little bit to explain various aspects of how currency works, but this is what I'm interested in. This system is known as a form of commodity money. And the reason that it is that when you are accessing your bank account, whatever account you use with USD, the balance in your bank account does not represent any particular dollars that they have set aside for you to like access, right? Which means that it's representational of actual money. It also means that processing can happen basically immediately, and that your money is separated from any physical dollars. On the blockchain, however, because again, the ledger is essentially immutable and transactions have to be group processed all at once, every Bitcoin, every Ethereum, every unit of value on there represents an actual, this is air quotes, actual unit of value that has to all be processed at once. And in very broad terms, the reason for this difference is that the money that we have today is fiat currency, and the money of blockchain is commodity currency, akin to having a gold standard. Not exactly, but akin.
It's not quite. Not quite.
It's not. This is what I'm curious about.
Well, no, but it's not quite.
I just want to finish the point.
Well, hold on. The point is wrong. What
point isn't wrong necessarily.
The point. Shut up. The point is that you're not operating on a gold standard. Under a gold standard, your money is exchangeable for a finite quantity of gold coins or gold in the form of bars, right? These are numbered, these are tracked, they operate like a currency. You're talking about having a pile of fucking metal. You're actually talking about operating in pure commodity. That's where the difference lies. And that actually is a crucial difference.
Okay, so that is a crucial difference on certain levels, though I think the parallels between them are enough that I think that the system for cryptocurrency is more similar to gold than it is to our current system of currency, which is fiat. And the thing that I was going to ask you is that wouldn't going to this system actually represent a regression that capital holders would not like? Because the thing about this, just as a minor preview of what the conclusion is going to be, is that the absolute richest people in the world don't necessarily love, to my understanding, don't love the idea of moving to crypto, but the people just below them do love the idea of moving to crypto. Anyways, with that, please elaborate, Dan.
Case in point, like Musk, when it was time to pay that kid to take that Twitter account down, he didn't pay him in no fucking Dogecoin. Musk paid that kid $5,000 fiat currency when he wanted to be sure it got done.
Yeah. All right. So the earliest form of currency, right? It goes back thousands of years. What's the difference between a crypto bros and an economist who has long university education with decades of work experience? Absolutely nothing, because they're probably not a Marxist economist.
Yeah.
And what are the similarities? The fact that they're both so fucking stupid at capitalism that they have they have the innate ability to accrue value, but they have no idea to comprehend how they accrued the value. Like they do in the baby sense, I profited from a transaction, but they don't understand the machinery that allows them to continue to profit. The difference is how stupid they are. The crypto bro embraces his own stupidity. The economist has spent a lot of money and makes a lot of money having a fucking delusion that they have their finger on the pulse because they're a neoclassical economist, which plays pretend that the price form is the ultimate form of value. Okay. So
that it was ever time to start writing books about it.
Yeah, that somehow that fucking the price form is the be all end all, as if the price form wasn't a piece of machinery to exchange values within, and thus there's some other value that actually matters. What do you do about that? Like one of them's professionally stupid, and one of them knows they're stupid and runs with it anyway. Good on them.
Wow, you just made the bros sound less scum. I guess though, yeah.
Oh, in this particular instance, the bros are less scummy because they have no fucking bones about what they are. They know press button profit comes out.
Yeah.
Economists spend a lot of money to delude themselves to think that's not how the machine works, and it's designed to people who are willing to take profitable actions over any other type of action, rather than people who retool their thinking differently. I feel like if moralists in this society do not do all that well. And there's a reason for that. It's not designed as a moral system, it's a profit-making system, right?
Yeah.
So you have to start with the idea of the commodity in the market, right? If I take wheat, if I drag a whole shit ton of wheat down to the market, I want to trade it for corn. Easy enough. There's a certain value of wheat that the corn guy will take, and there's a certain value amount of corn that I will take as value for my wheat. Then we have the transformation of the technology of debt. Okay. And in debt, we can store value in an object and assign it this ephemeral quality.
The promissory note, if you will.
Yeah. We can hold it in this ephemeral form, in the form of a currency, right? That's how we get debt. That's a huge technology. So we can hold this debt inside this currency, and we can transfer those debts, right? We can move them from one person to another in exchange. They act as a medium of exchange for two different values. So instead of trading corn for wheat, we each sell our corn and wheat, and then we buy off of each other. We don't just do simple barter. Those currencies before capitalism were agreed upon and universal, and their first purpose was like, if I accidentally killed your sheep, instead of you killing my sheep and then my cows to get retribution, I could pay you in some form of debt. I could show that I'm indebted to you in some form. Feudalism borrows that and turns that into a type of currency where we can make economic transactions happen. As we can see, society builds up because now we have a new piece of machinery that lets us move values around more efficiently, right? And they decide to tie it to precious metals. Of course, they're rarer. They can store, because they're rarer, people will artificially store more value onto them, so they will exchange them for more and more quantities, right? Hard to buy a boat and chicken bones. It's a lot easier to buy a boat and a pile of gold coins, right? Gold manufacturing, gold mining and manufacture, silver mining and manufacture. These two industries take off, and we see economics boom as a result under feudalism compared to the old way. That allows for coinage, right? So we go from bartering in chicken bones, if you will, or shells, whatever. We fucking pick an object off the ground and barter with it and say it holds value. We go into bartering in lumps of metal, and then we move to bartering in coins that are respected by various feudal governments. Okay, it's amazing how gold found in an old pirate ship in the sea can still be used to buy food at KFC. Well, because it's gold. It's not so much because it is gold from a pirate ship that has no special quality. It's not because it's the metal gold. It's because the metal gold specifically fetches so much in fiat currency, which we'll get to. So the next evolution in money is, of course, is not the errant individual exchanging things or the sovereign exchanging things. With the bourgeoisie revolution, we allow the market to command the money supply. So we create what you would call a bank, right? We create a storehouse of value whose service within the market is to hold and exchange values in quite a literal sense. I'm to transform gold into money and money into gold and so on, right? It would appear to be alchemy that you could fucking transform a whole shit ton of fucking precious metals into all this fucking gold, right? And these gold coins that I can use to go buy anything. That's the bourgeoisie revolution.
You can also run a bunch of cats out somewhere to get a bunch of gold or silver. Like if you got a harsh wasteland out west and a frontier full of, hostile, people that already live there that really don't want you to show up and fuck their shit. Okay, you can just be like, there's gold in them Nar Hills. Moves a lot of shit, man.
Moves a lot of resources. A lot of money is spent on that. A lot of money is spent acquiring more gold, which now that we're using gold coins in this manner, gold is a relative amount of exchange values, potential for exchange values, right? If we think of physics, it acts like potential energy because we have all this value. We just have to distribute it throughout the economy and let transactions occur to create more and more value. That's the bourgeoisie piece of technology, right? That's their big contribution. Well, they have a lot of big contributions to economics. Obviously, we live under them, right? If you compare it to feudalism, leaps and bounds better. So, what we have then, is the gold coin, and the gold coin is itself a standardized value. What we end up with through the bank system is the promissory note, or the dollar, or the pound, or what have you. We have a paper-based currency. The first one I think in the U.S. was the greenback. Somebody can fact check me on that. But the greenback is a piece of fiat. It is a piece of paper that is supposedly able to be exchanged one for gold. But there's not really a purpose in exchanging it one for gold. In fact, it's more beneficial to never exchange it one for gold. Precisely because the next piece of technology added is called leverage. For every, I don't know, let's say the unit is 1 pound. We'll use the British style, right? 1 pound of gold or 1 pound of silver, right? I believe that's where I believe, don't quote me, but I believe that's where 1 pound sterling comes from. So I have 1 pound sterling of silver, right? But I can leverage 10 paper pounds against that one piece of silver on the grounds that you 10 people aren't going to be idiots and want that 1 pound, and decrease my ability to leverage money. This is what we call the gold standard, right? So
Gross. I mean, progress.
I wanna make the note real quick that pre 1860, this is my understanding of it. Every dollar had a corresponding amount of gold or reserve of gold that it was related to.
That was absolutely not true. It couldn't be true because then the banks wouldn't have failed every other week like they did.
Okay, so what's important is that the money corresponded to a reserve of gold or silver, but was not 1-to-1 to the amount of gold or silver that was in it.
Right.
Whereas
that's leveraging. That's leveraging. That's lending.
What in 1860, what ended up happening is that the United States issued the greenback, which they said you may exchange this for gold or silver where there is gold or silver that gives that service, but this dollar is not it's not fucking registered to a particular reserve,
right?
Essentially,
yeah.
And that was the technology that they came up with for that.
That was one of the technologies. Yeah, that's fiat currency. That's currency that stands on its own feet and is its own form of debt.
Most historians would say that's when the U.S. switched to fiat currency officially.
It's not actually true, though, because they rescinded. They rescinded, and then they went back to it again when they needed to create a lot more wealth. And here's the reason why. If you have so much physical gold, whether it's minted into coins or it's just lumps of fucking metal or bars of metal like it is in Fort Knox, right? You only have so much money.
Allegedly. I ain't checked lately. I don't know if they still got that gold in there. They might have just,
They really, the presumption that
pulling a Game of Thrones on us. How many bars of gold came out of Fort Knox last year?
I'm going to be really revolutionary here. It's irrelevant if there is gold. The promise that there is gold in there is sufficient enough.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, okay.
And honestly,
dead ass.
I would probably be banking oil under that kind of security, but that's me.
Yeah.
Oil or platinum.
Yeah.
Something with a real price tag. Fucking tungsten. That shit's rare.
I know a Ferengi that can get you gold pressed latinum. That's the good stuff.
That's the good stuff. So what fiat allows you to do, whether or not it's tied to a gold standard, what fiat allows you to do is print new value out of thin air. You can print new debt. So you can increase your money supply. Because when your money supply is tied to physical coins or lumps of metal or transactional objects like chicken bones, the amount of money you have in your economy is specifically tied to that. Taxation eliminates money from the money supply. This is why feudalism, if it were measured in modern economic standards, was a perpetual state of depression.
Fuck, I missed the whole podcast.
Nah, you're fine. We're nowhere near done, my friend.
You're fine.
So, this allows you, even again, against a gold standard or against a fiat standard, a fiat-to-fiat lending like we do now, you're able to hold a reserve of so much money in your bank. You're able to hold a physical amount of money in your bank, okay? You can lend as if you had far more money than that, because the act of lending it out will create throughout the economy more opportunities for spending, more opportunities for values to be exchanged. That in turn will lead to more money coming back to your bank as more people pay on those loans, and as more people borrow again to create the number of people who will pay, because your money supply increases as that money returns. Okay? That's in physical fiat. And if you're worried like, oh, that sounds like a fucking scheme, doesn't sound like it works. Everything the crypto bros built their little crypto system off of is an exact result of that piece of technology. It's about the ability to lend. That's how they did it. Because for fucking decades, that system worked more or less. And honestly, no matter how bad the depressions are right now, they were infinitely worse once we were tied to a physical quantity of currency because you've pulled yourself out of the physical into the abstract. Now we can leverage $10 versus or 10 pounds versus 1 pound. I need 1 physical pound of silver to get 10 pounds. Right? That's all I need because if only one of you was stupid enough to try to get that silver, then it doesn't matter because the other 9 don't fucking know. The other 9 don't know I still don't have that piece of silver. When they figure it out and they want their silver because they see you walking around with your dumb silver lump, the bank collapses. Okay?
I like this part. I like this part because this is the part where you can see the rapidity of the transactions. The possibilities of being able to do all this instantly is going to allow you to create a whole lot more rubes that don't know, right?
Problem number 1. You have to assume everybody's a rube. Everybody's going to act rationally. And rationally here means dumb. They won't go get their actual value. They'll take their pretend value. And the economy works just fine. It's all 10 of you operate on your pretend value. Problem is, once 2 of you decide they want that silver, now the bank doesn't have any money.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the quantities are bigger, and yet that's how life was up until probably about the 1930s, to be very frank, when everything was when purely gold backed.
Yeah.
So we come to the 30s, right? We come to the 1930s in the global economy. The economy crashes again. We have another depression. Capitalism does this. It's its own house cleaning mechanism. Capitalism, much like the vagina, is a self-cleaning organ. Periodically, it has to have a downtime, clean up. All those debts have to be eliminated somehow. They can't just sit and fester. They can't grow infinitely. At some point, somebody doesn't want to spend, and when somebody doesn't want to spend, they're fucked. If a person has an NFT monkey worth $100,000 link, how do they trade it so all the dollars end up physically being in their hands? We'll get to that. So,
good luck.
That's spoilers. That's spoilers.
Yeah, that has to do with just to like be very brief about that. That has to do with like cashing out into a different currency, and that's been not stable for a lot of liquidity reasons that we're about to elaborate on when it comes to how liquidity even works in the first place. So
yes,
I'll let Dan get to that. That does matter, and we will get to that.
Liquidity and leverage. So, all right. So now we are in the era, right? In the 1930s, the globe switches over from being a single standard. Now, we still call it the gold standard because we're all dumb. But what happens to pull us out of the depression is in part a giant war, which increases spending throughout the general economy to boost expenditures. And capitalism cleans up its own inefficiencies, right? By killing people. Less people to consume, more spending out of those people, the economy rises.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think World War II pulled it out because of we fucking debt spent a ton. It wasn't necessarily that there were less people after it, and then we had a giant boom in population after.
Yeah,
too.
I don't think the.
Yeah, it was about debt spending, which
I'm
is
gonna
good.
leave
It
it
was
at this.
basically an MMT solution.
I'm just gonna leave it at this. Gonna leave it at this. It's weird that all these depressions coincide with periods of a lot of fucking death, and the capitalism does slightly better off after all those people are dead. And the capitalism, as I already said, is a self-cleaning organ.
I mean, I don't know. I think the MMT people kind of have a point when it comes to like why that pulled that stuff out. But yeah,
I didn't disagree.
I mean, you can make.
I didn't disagree that massive spending. What I said was massive spending coincided with an awful lot of death is what pulled capitalism out.
Well, that's because the death is what justifies the massive spending. But the MMT people do make the point that if we just did the massive spending, it would work
death.
too. That being said, that there's a reason that correlates. That's for sure.
But
I didn't want people to think that was a causation.
I am 100% with this. It is exactly correct. And for legal reasons, we should probably just continue to agree.
For what legal reasons? Sup, Giovanni? So, again, I'll leave it at this. It's odd to me that periods of mass death under capitalism coincide with economic recovery. I think that's weird. I think that's a very weird quirk of capitalism that people have to die for the economy to recover, or that when the economy recovers coincides with when they die.
I
So
mean, I've done it.
if you
I've done it
don't-
on the ground. I used to hit estate sales for collectibles, and
If-
last week I sold a
if-
lot of those collectibles.
I
I've
would
done it on
assert
the ground.
and here I'm going to take the capitalist argument that essentially I would say that the depression end of it causes death. What you two would be functionally arguing is that growth causes death. Now, that's a tit for tat, right? That's a tit for tat. I would say the downturn causes the death, and that because the people have died, the economy can grow. There's new space, right? There's less people, so there's less money floating in many hands rather than that same amount of money flowing in smaller hands, so spending can increase. Now, you can argue that because capitalists get more money, they kill more people, which I'd probably be knee-jerk inclined to agree with. The richer you give, the more money you give to capitalists, the more they kill people. Which is fine. You guys can argue that. That's free to take the more communist position than I would actually have.
Yeah, I guess we are free to take whatever imagined position you have given to us.
That's
We
the
are
position.
free to do
But
that
that's
thing.
the position. What you're arguing then is that growth causes death, not the depression. I argue that the depression causes death.
we are
And
we
then
are
because
completely
people
free
have
to
died, it
allow you to
recovers.
completely control
Well,
the
I
narrative.
just-
and-
I mean, the only
How
way to
else
see it,
do you
the only
explain
way
it?
to see it that way is to just assume that every argument must be hyper causative, which just is not true.
Under capitalism, I mean, if that's like, if you see
in
capitalism,
fact, only an idiot
if-
would argue that every single argument is hyper causative.
if you see capitalism as a machine that operates in certain ways and has certain repeat behaviors, if you see it as a giant interlocking machine, then you could make the argument that it just happens to be that whether or not capitalism grows or dies, lots of people have to die for it to grow.
It's
Blood
not a
must be shed.
one-to-one machine because there are people operating it, and they operate it
Sure.
based on their perception of their best interests, which makes it a very flawed machine because it's run by human brains, which means that no, it doesn't actually operate mechanistically in a way that like makes 100% sense every time, which is why
So
arguments
since
that
we've
are,
already disagreed with Dan's based on his premise, he's going to continue on assuming that we agree with him.
I'm just
Yeah.
Just to
going
move the narrative along.
I'm just
Yeah.
going to say I find it weird that that for somebody like you, frankly, who loves capitalism so much that you basically have to admit that people have to die for it to grow, right? I find that to be weird. Like that's a weird thing to love about capitalism.
It is a really weird thing for someone to love about capitalism. Yes, you are correct. Now
It is-
moving on with
it
your
is
point.
yeah,
It's weird. That's all I'm saying, boys. You're being very sus, but I'm going to move on. As you've insisted that pointing out your moral failing makes you feel bad. You could just accept it as a fact that you like people dying so that capitalism recovers, or you could be like me that say that's a bad thing. It depends on your personal morals and ethics. So again, I'm more morally superior to you.
Yeah, again, you're the one
So
that brings
all,
up the morals.
I just want to make this clear. All MMT people are like hyper murderers. Is that what you're saying? I just want to make sure I got that clear.
I'm just
They're
putting it
evil
out there.
genociders, right?
I'm just putting it out there that it's
It
weird.
occurs to me you guys couldn't hear me this whole time, and I'm sitting here screaming it's a death machine.
Again, John, I'm an Occam's razor guy at the end of the day.
Dan, Dan
I'm
is
not
arguing
talking to
the
you,
fact
I'm not talking.
that
Occam's
That's
guilty.
fine.
none of them
That's
agreed
fine.
that they are not death murderers, every single one.
That is a
That's a
fact.
fair
Thank
point.
you. You're now back.
no, we
into
never
it.
agreed on that.
Look,
Yeah.
I again on the ground, man, on the ground. Every time there's a bunch of death and I don't die, like I can go to estate sales. Some of their assets are already organized. It's like you'll get a whole box of collectibles that a guy thought he was gonna live to resell, but he didn't. It's fucking, it's labeled. He already looked up. You just take his labor. He already looked up all the fucking values of the shit. You know, he's got it filed
Alright.
and ready to go. It's good when they die on the ground. I'm telling you, I've seen this theory bear out. Okay.
Yeah, if you ever
Again,
find
wages-
Magic the Gathering
wages go up.
as estate sales, it's all useless, and you can mail them to me.
Yeah. So again, right? If we're going to talk about that part of it. Now, what I wanted to talk about, actually, if I'm going to be very fair, I wanted to talk about none of that shit. That was you two derailing my ass.
Right. Totally.
Yeah, it was. If you would just accept what you are, it would be fine. You're a mass murdering capitalist, and that's how you like to live your life. Now, I'm going to go back to what I was saying. World War II is in part based on massive public spending. Now, we said the economy was on a gold standard, but that wasn't entirely true. It was in about the 20s, going into the 30s, that we switched over to a hybrid commodity standard. We switched into the petrodollar, or the oil dollar. So our currency was not only backed up by the price of gold, it was backed up by the price of oil, right? But what are you pricing it in? Well, you're pricing it in the currency that is deriving its value from the thing. It becomes a circular logic problem, and that works just fine until one of those things drops for some reason. If the demand for gold or the demand for oil drops, those things plummet. That happens in the 1970s. So Nixon decides we're going to switch solely to the petrodollar, and we're going to say we're no longer backed by gold. Every dumbass believes we're backed by gold. So now we're a pure fiat currency. We're actually not. We still operate on a commodity-backed fiat currency, in this case, the petrodollar. And when we move to that singular currency, we're now at the behest. Saudi Arabia has to be doing good for our currency, in part, to be doing good. Now, fiat has its own quirks, and since this is Econ 101, I'm going to move past those, right? But it's important to understand that we operate on a commodity-backed fiat currency. Now we come into the digital age, about 40 to 50 years after that, and we start getting rumblings of something called Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. That is the marketing term for it. What it actually is in behavior is your computer is used as a well of human labor, right? It stores the labor from the person who makes power. It stores it from the person who gets the resources to go make that power. It stores it in the form of all the clothes that those people are wearing, all the food they ate. All those values are exchanged and laundered through these complex systems to come to your computer, which is a well of human labor. The humans who built it have built a machine that can store a damn near infinite amount of human labor. By the way, what's on the menu is crypto, NFTs, and Econ 101, baby. That's what's on the menu. Just telling chat what's going on. So, okay.
Which chat? I'm
Twitch
just curious. Oh, it's still Twitch?
Oh, it's our boy.
All
It's our boy Reptilian Rando. Showing up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Shut up.
it's our boy. All right. So they use these machines to produce what we call the blockchain, right? And these are your cryptocurrencies. They are manufactured through this laboring process to create a unique commodity. That's really not all that revolutionary. Every commodity is a unique commodity. The difference between your can of Sprite and my can of Sprite is one's in my possession, the other's in yours possession. They're all made through human labor, right? That's what makes them quote unquote unique. The individual can of Sprite is a unique can of Sprite. It is one can of Sprite. I'm looking at Sprite, that's why I'm saying it this way. I'm looking at my can of Sprite. But your can of Sprite is functionally the same. It contains the same liquid. It's made the same way. Has pretty much more than likely the same fucking packaging. It's not an excess accumulator. So, in much the same way these cryptocurrencies are manufactured, they're all functionally the same thing. The reason they call it crypto mining is because you're functionally regressing back to the era of the commodity when you're trying to look for lumps of gold to exchange for value. And that's what you do, right? All you're doing is forcing the machine to produce this invisible thing. We know it's a thing because you can exchange it. It's made of electrons. It exists. It's in the real world. Is a very, very small thing, mind you. And it has its fucking marketing and all that shit. It has all the things to make it a unique thing. Human labor made it. But ultimately, it is just a string of things, just like any dollar is, just like any fucking can of Sprite is. Okay? But it's just a commodity. So, the first people who are making Bitcoin really don't have anything to do with it. Bitcoin starts out at what? Being worth, was it 25 cents a fucking coin?
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning? Right? Because there's not enough people buying into the fucking bullshit. Sorry, reading Batil. I don't know how to pronounce that philosopher's name, Batil. So kind of obsessed. Fair enough. So, you have a commodity. Problem with commodity is if you produce something, you have to find somebody dumb enough to buy it. That's it. I was dumb enough to buy the can of Sprite. I was dumb enough to buy the Xbox controller that's sitting in front of me and plugged into my computer so I can play Genshin while I'm talking about this. Somebody has to be dumb enough to buy it. They have to be willing to exchange values to obtain the thing. The value being exchanged is always human labor, ultimately. The money acts as a medium of exchange for a certain amount of human labor that is then turned into another commodity, and that value is exchanged. Somebody accumulates that money. They're accumulating all that human labor. They go buy more commodities. Same thing. That's how an economy works. Okay, at least the capitalist economy, functionally. So, what happens is no different than what happens at your grocery store. With Bitcoin, you have a bunch of people with a bunch of fucking Bitcoin sitting around at 35 cents. They need to drive the price up. They need to create a demand for the thing because they need to inflate the price. Yeah, the petrodollar, right. That's what we switched to from the gold. We switched to the oil dollar in about the 20s, yeah. So you have a bunch of motherfuckers who want money and have this functional trash. So they start their marketing campaign and people buy in. The people who buy in first are people who are what we would call on the fringe of society, right? You have your drug dealers, you have your hitmen for hire, you have people who are trying to evade their taxes. Because if I launder my money through Bitcoin, Bitcoin isn't currency in the traditional sense. It's no different than having gold teeth. They can't tax your gold teeth. They can't tax your fucking, they can't tax your, with not a painting, you can tax a painting now. But you have some sort of object that holds that value in lieu of having fiat currency. The primary purpose was what it always has been. It's to evade taxes, right?
So you got slow growth first for people who actually need it, people who need to launder money. And then later you get the boom, which is just FOMO, right? Which is just people looking at the post where the guy sold all his Bitcoin and he shouldn't have.
FOMO comes after. What you have to
Okay.
understand is the next step is just like in any other market, right? That starts out as a black market anyway, is that people who have will generously call legitimately earned money. I'm being very generous on both legitimate and earned. Okay? Those people look at what the outsiders are doing and go, boy, that is a great way for me to avoid having to pay my taxes. But the problem is Bitcoin at 35 cents or $1 a Bitcoin or $2 a Bitcoin isn't worth very much. So the price has to be driven up. They're only going to be able to drive it up if they buy in. So they transfer those values, they buy in by exchanging hard currency, fiat currency, to people who wanted to make their currency legitimate and are exchanging that value with other people who wanted to not pay their taxes. But now those people who don't want to pay their taxes, right? They have to find new people to market it to. The people who were doing it for what we would call criminal activity, the black market activity, already know what the game is. That's why they're doing what they were doing. And that's why they found somewhere to sell their money to so they could launder their money. Now we have people, capitalists. Let's be clear who we're talking about. We're talking about people like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, etc. The first wave of those freaks. They have found a way to launder their money tax-free. Now they need somebody to sell it to, and they make sure to create the artificial demand. What did you call it, Drew?
FOMO, fear of missing
FOMO.
out.
Fear of missing out.
The only thing I'd like to note in this historical timeline is Dan referenced people buying drugs. And I think that it's no coincidence that a large part of the drive toward making Bitcoin this marketing revolution against how the current system works is a combination of 2008 happening. So there was a way to sort of position yourself against the current capitalists, and they were buying and selling drugs. A large purveyor of that was the Silk Road, which is a website, not the actual Silk Road. Any of the drugs that traveled the actual Silk Road are just coincidental here.
Yes.
They used Bitcoin to trade on the Silk Road between buyers and sellers, and then the Silk Road shut down. So a lot of people were left holding the proverbial bag on that one.
Like if I had a bunch of Dave & Buster's bucks and the Dave & Buster's up the street from my house just fucking closed.
Yeah, actually, it's a lot like
literally
that.
just
and then
like
you convince some sucker to buy the fucking Dave & Buster's dollars off you. So that's I don't think that's a coincidence either. But that's just a historical note. Please proceed.
All right, I'm almost done for the record. So the reason you want to store it in a commodity is very simple, of course. Again, it's not taxed. Commodities aren't taxed the same way that your fucking income is. Rich people are always looking to do that, but to do that, they're going to have to drive the price up because it doesn't behoove them to hold 50,000 $1 bills. That does them no good. They're not profiting off of it. They need to drive the price up. What enters in is the concept is true. Call it FOMO or demand. They have created an artificial demand because they have made such large purchases. People notice that, wait a minute, as demand increases for this commodity, which is no different in practice than a fucking chicken bone or a fucking lump of gold. Same thing for this purpose. It's a way to hold value that avoids, in this case, taxation by the federal government. People want to buy into that because then they think they can become the seller. Okay, so when you were asking about who wins, it's already the enfranchised capitalists. Now, they don't want to switch. Now, as John said, we talk about this a little bit later, they don't want to switch to doing that purely. This has to remain a speculative a speculative asset. That's the term for it.
Mhm.
The very simple reason for that is if it replaces the currency, then they might have to pay their fucking taxes. That's it.
Heaven forbid they do that.
Heaven for fucking
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, and okay, so is
I'm
are you
certainly
complete with your
done.
point? 'Cause-
You go right ahead.
Okay, so this is I'm not refuting any of this. This is just some extra notes on this. When Dan talks about taxes, taxes can be both a paid to a government and essentially fees.
Yes.
For their purposes, they're the same thing.
Consider
They
it,
just can.
just to further clarify your point, consider it a form of rent-seeking behavior.
Yeah. So, one thing I think that is interesting about the way that Bitcoin works or cryptocurrency works is that if we were to switch to this system, those fees would be, immutable to the everyday, or not immutable, but let me put it differently. Those fees would be mechanic and inherent to the way the system works, though the actual rich and powerful could still leverage their pools of money, however you want to put it, to avoid those fees in certain capacities. It would take effort, and the thing about this really is that the lower tier of the rich want to switch to the system because they imagine the system to be such that then they would be at the top where they could extract fees from the wealthy who are above them. And this is this.
Do you think okay, there's some marketing going on here with the crypto bros. It would have been really natural to call what they call gas fees just a tax, right? But they didn't use the term tax. They call it gas.
Use fees. Well, they now if you were to delve into the libertarian side of YouTube or Twitter, and get past all the child pornography, if you could get past that for a second, what you would see is
Trying
a large
not to have that subject brought up. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Hopefully-
I still love you. I still love you too, by the way, Jen. I still do.
So
I'm not so sure.
here's the main point. You wade through all the bullshit. One of the screeds that they go on is the difference between fees and taxes. I'm very extremely uninterested in that topic, but they would tell you that those things are different, and
they would be
the
wrong.
people who made this are libertarians, so that's the reason that they don't call it a gas tax. Aside from that being confusing, is that they fundamentally ideologically believe that those are fees and not taxes.
Ideologically,
Because
they
the T word is the T word is their N word.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yes, in the truest sense. Yeah. All right. So the next question: if cryptocurrency is a pyramid scheme, I'm going to stop there. I never said it was a pyramid scheme. Quite the opposite. It is a naturally functioning market. There is no pyramid scheme to it. This is how all markets work. At the top, there are money launderers, and the people who are buying in originally are the same as the people who want to avoid taxation. That's the money launderers.
So I want to also point out that one of the observations here, one of the tensions, is that rhetorically, the crypto people want this to be our current currency system, but in existence as is, it's a speculative asset. That's where the FOMO comes in. That is the group of people who are buying, $20, $30, $50, $100 of Bitcoin, however much, Those are people who are experiencing FOMO who want to buy a speculative asset to get in on it at the ground floor, even though it's not the ground floor. You refer to
At the ground ceiling.
Yes.
who is below the FOMO. The FOMO is every other sucker who would have to be subjected to having one of these fucking wallets in the event that
This were to happen.
event that this were to happen.
That's
Those
where
would be
the
the
push
actual
is
people
now,
below
right?
that.
That's where the push is now, right? When you get on Twitter and somebody like Reese Witherspoon says, you know, everybody's gonna have this.
So
right? You're gonna have to.
I want to make a couple points. We don't have to switch to this system. We really don't. Like, it's just like in the development of capitalism and everything. Like, we don't actually have to do this. There's no reason. Like, we can process all the transactions just fine right now. It's going well. And this is the other thing. As a speculative asset, if they just tell you this is a speculative asset, they give up the game on the fact that it is just a speculative asset. They want to believe hard enough that this will really be how the world economic system functions soon. Because that's the only way they can fucking sell this stuff. Because otherwise it's obviously useless. Just on the face.
Yeah, again, compare it again to commodity-backed fiat currency, which is what we operate under every day, and this shit happens, right? Commodity-backed fiat currency has the power to be leveraged against. You can't lend on a commodity system if there is money in the pool, right? If there's commodity money in play, I lose my Bitcoin wallet because I forgot my password is the same as I literally melted my gold and threw it outside on the ground. And the earth has absorbed it. I have destroyed money. In fiat, I can lend and I can create money. Growth can go upwards.
So
growth is capped. Well, the concept of growth, i.e., the money supply increases, wealth, as an abstract term, increases. That actually can't happen. Now, you can mine out a bunch more currency to fix that problem, but every time that currency is destroyed, that's a permanent loss.
Yeah, well, here's the thing that's funny about it. This is my favorite fact about it. In order to access that currency, in order to spend that money, you need your physical wallet. You need the code that allows you to use the wallet to spend the money, right? You need that.
Right.
Okay. So that's the thing that represents the value, and those things operate in many ways as if however much money it is, it's that kind of amount of bill. It's that amount of gold. It's immutable in itself. If you want to split 100 Bitcoin into 50 Bitcoin and 50 Bitcoin, you have to use the ledger to do that, right?
So you need a phone and a computer, and you need all types of shit. You can't just write a letter to Coinbase and ask them to.
Yeah.
If Alien comes and eats
the answer to your question is no, because there's still chicken bones last time I checked.
Yeah, it's one of those things where what we back our fiat currency with right now, it's oil, and that's because oil is essentially a representation of energy. I pretty firmly believe that if we could ever store electricity well enough, we'd have an electrodollar, but and that makes more sense. I mean, not that any of this stuff is the best.
It's literal power.
Yeah, it's that would probably be
we'd be
ideologically.
Cutting the bullshit.
Huh?
We'd be cutting the bullshit.
Yeah, it would ideologically. It makes the most sense to me. I don't know if we're ever going to have batteries that are that powerful. We might, but that's another topic. Here's the thing about Bitcoin and burning it. The thing that's funny about if you destroy the physical wallets or whatever that have the codes, you need those codes to be able to tell the ledger
that they're dead.
Transfer. Well, no, not that they're dead. You can't ever delete it. It's important. That's actually really important here. But you need those wallets with the codes in them to be able to tell the ledger that money that's associated with it is being spent. And if you stomp those fucking things out, again, like Dan said, if you just fucking throw the gold into the sun or whatever in that case,
you melt it and throw it in the backyard.
Yeah, all of that money still technically exists as an entry on the ledger and takes up space on the ledger. And every further transaction, every lost Bitcoin ever is still on the ledger technically. It just can't ever be spent because no one can access it. And the thing that I find funniest about this is that very technically, there is a way to delete Bitcoin. However, it involves doing something that should never be able to happen according to their ideology, and that's called a fork. And what you can do, if you can convince the server owners, not every individual who's processing these proof of work verifications, but the people who own the main servers that everybody contributes to for that work to be done. If you lobby all of them and say, hey, append your ledger so that, well, it's not append your ledger, just go back in the ledger history to when that Bitcoin didn't exist, and then just proceed forward as if none of those transactions happened. So that's called a fork. That is... Now, of course, here's the thing.
And they've done this several times with Ethereum, right?
Well, they've done it with every fucking cryptocurrency.
They
I'm
have
not
to.
joking. That's not a joke. They have. So here's the thing. Okay. Let's say somebody who owns one of these, or all of these servers, or even enough of them that it matters. Let's say they fucking misspend and they get ripped off, and they try to buy. This is earlier in the timeline. They try to buy drugs, and the person sends them fucking, like broccoli in the bag, right?
Yeah.
Like that's they do the classic thing they use to rip off high schoolers.
Is that the class using broccoli specifically?
It's oregano. It's
I
oregano.
As far as John Sinclair knows, it's broccoli. Okay.
All right, I will concede that point.
So, okay, there's you get home and you open the package from Silk Road and it says you get the fucking broccoli and you're mad. You own the server. You have been you look back to see how many transactions have happened since I bought the broccoli. One transaction's happened because this is like 2010, and you own the server. You can go back to the week that you spent that money using your array of servers and just delete every new entry and proceed as if it didn't happen. It's not a problem, really. Okay, if
except for that one guy.
Yeah, except for the one guy. If tens of thousands of transactions have happened since then, all of their transactions get deleted on the way back to yours. That's the only way you can recover, quote unquote, that, and it comes essentially at the price of all of the other Bitcoin or cryptocurrency that's been mined since, as part of those proof of work verifications. Because again, every transaction represents new Bitcoin that's been generated, or new crypto, excuse me. I'm just using Bitcoin as a shorthand here. Every transaction forward of the transaction you go back to represents Bitcoin that's been created, and you're deleting all of that. So it should be a non-starter, because the other thing with NFTs here, this is what's important, is every time you create a new NFT, new Bitcoin, whatever, you're generating more of that currency, and the nature of the code that creates your new currency is different because it's the X number of it's the 10 millionth piece of cryptocurrency created. Its code is actually unique, quote unquote, which means that the functionally reissuing cryptocurrency to all of the people who have been affected by this fork, that's what they call this when you go backwards like this, is essentially impossible. So this sounds like a non-starter. This sounds like it should never fucking happen. It happens every time.
Chat's doing spoilers.
So what's important is, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to catch up on chat here.
Yeah, chat's doing spoilers. It's exactly
no,
correct.
It isn't. Yeah, that's the point, is that these systems are centralized completely, and there's no way around that. Here's the final point that I want to make. There are three different types of Bitcoin. Bitcoin Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV. There are two different types of Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. Every cryptocurrency that branches off represents servers disagreeing with each other about if a fork should happen or not. And if they disagree about the fork happening, one server or one set of servers proceeds as if the fork did happen, the other one proceeds as if it didn't happen. And that's because enough of the people on that server feel like, well, I'm going to get fucked if this fork happens, so we're just going to fucking market our own coin now. Thanks. That's what it is.
That is hysterical. As you proposed when you began this explanation, that is a fucking knee slapper right there.
I'm gonna be
Version control is messy.
listen. I'm gonna be really heretical now. You ready for this?
Okay.
Mhm.
The idea of a central bank rising off of a private company being asserted as the predominant hegemon is entirely within libertarian theory. That's the only, in fact, that is the only way a government can arise that has natural authority over people. That's it. That's Robert. That's fucking Nozick, buddy. That's pure anarcho-capitalism. That is the only way you have a just government that has to be respected. That's like that is. How do I put it best? What's the best religious way to put it? If you
And
were
at what point do I gain the British inflection?
that was at about 1920.
Oh.
Yeah, the
Damn it.
petrodollar, because the petrodollar was one of Britain's big fucking advancements, that we can just hit all the Arabs and take their fucking oil and then back our money off of the oil we stole from Arabs, and clearly it'll have value because number one, the Arabs essentially mined it for us, and number two, we stole it, so like there's a ton of labor in it. It's totally valuable.
It's totally valuable.
Yeah, that's the premise. Again, like capitalism has two ways to create value. The way capitalism acknowledges value created is essentially death. The way value is created is labor. Labor doesn't have to be death, but capitalism likes it that way to make sure that the capitalists are still hierarchically on top. Like it's a fundamental fucking premise, right? You don't
say that
you can trade. You could trade with the banana republics, and they wouldn't be the banana republics. They would just be countries. Or you can violently overthrow so that when you take their fucking bananas, it has that extra zest in it. You know there was suffering.
But you would say that the longer that capitalism goes on, the more that the Venn diagram becomes a circle.
I'm interested to hear about this Eurodollar, but let me address Twitdin. What I understand is why it is so important that something is centralized or not decentralized. Well, okay. All right. Who wants to take over libertarian insanity? Who wants to take that over?
That's their fantasy. It's their fantasy that they're independent and that they're powerful on their own. That that a single person can control all this shit, right?
I think that the key reason that they say that that being decentralized is important is that then there is nobody who can exert power over you, and that everything is essentially your fault.
And if you want to hear more about that, you could go back to our, I would say, brilliant free will episodes where Dan just lost his mind for 5 weeks on fucking free will. It was so good. Yeah.
I'm still losing my mind, friend. Don't worry about that. I just haven't come back around
That shit
to
was
it yet.
so good.
We'll get to free will 69. Interestingly enough, the reason they don't market it on air right now is because air does not currently sell, which I'm actually surprised we went to NFTs before we ever went to the air dollar and have to rent our daily quantity of air.
Oh yeah, you said this the other day. Yeah, I was feeling that. It is weird.
That was a very weird development. I could have sworn we'd get to air dollars before we'd ever get to fucking buying JPEGs functionally.
That one girl was doing stinky air dollars, but they shut her down.
Yes.
They did shut her down. How dare they?
Well, again, it's because she's an independent creator. She's not a man. If Goldman Sachs' CEO was selling air dollars, we'd be fucked. We'd have to rent our own ability to fart back.
Is that what I gotta do to get some of this poor girl's air dollars? I gotta convince Goldman Sachs CEO that I want his air dollars too.
Yeah, that's what you'd have to do. I'm not even joking here.
Just cut them in.
Yeah, so
They're just mad they're not cut in.
That's exactly right. By the way, that's Michael Jordan Peterson and his smooth, dulcet tones. Um,
Yeah, baby.
I didn't
We're
introduce him
joined
at
late
first
by
because he
Michael
joined
Jordan
late.
Peterson hitting threes from the half court.
Oh yeah, her dye completely ruined her asshole. She's gaped permanently. That woman is just nothing but a gape fart machine.
Yeah, did she hurt herself doing that? Like, how the
Oh,
fuck?
by far, the woman did nothing but fart for 24/7 and sell her farts because she was hot. And I got to tell you, the fantasy of fucking the fart woman is a stupid fantasy unless you're really into fart stink during sex.
Well, I mean, James Joyce, a great American literary figure. I mean,
Yeah.
look up the James Joyce letters if you want to hear a guy who was really into it.
Is that like a
Wow.
pleasure? Is that like a pleasure and pain thing? Shit and not shit.
As far as joining to win tokens or anything like that, it's a 50-50 shot whether or not that's a scam or whether or not you'll get a little bit of currency to be able to flip to some asshole who
Okay.
is stupider than you and then make some money.
This
Yes.
is. I want to make this final point about mechanics here.
Oh, you're fine. We get derailed all the time. Literally, this show is me trying to make a point or John trying to make a point, and we just derail the fuck out of each other.
Yeah.
So
That's why the other three are there to derail us.
I'm not okay. I'm not a financial advisor. We're not financial advisors.
Fuck that. No. Fuck that.
Not necessarily true.
Just because we're not financial advisors in America doesn't mean we're not financial advisors.
But for legal reasons, we are definitely not financial advisors in
Again,
America.
I really. This is the. I want to at least speak broadly about this one phenomenon that can happen if you have an NFT, and that is that yes, there is no. You are anonymous when you have one of these Bitcoin or when you have one of these crypto wallets. You are anonymous in the sense that the account number for your wallet is not associated with your social security number, your photo ID, your name. Your name's not on it inherently. None of these things are inherently associated when you create one. It's not associated even with your IP address when you create one, to my knowledge. However, that account number is, in point of fact, a public number on the blockchain. And anybody who knows how to read the ledger can Control F, essentially, and type in your account number and find all of the transactions you've ever done from that account, from that wallet.
Yes.
And that means that if you ever go on a forum, for example, and make a public post to the effect of, hey, I want to enter this raffle for an NFT, here's my account number. That account number is publicly available to everybody to see all of your transactions, to see the things that you bought.
Because that's the only way we can operate honestly in the open.
Yes.
That's one of the pitches.
Even if technically your name isn't associated with it, this isn't a 100% public, low-trust environment. It's just that you are your account number, but your account number is not necessarily just 100% associated with you as far as like the cops are concerned or as far as like taxes are concerned. Here's the thing though. You enter this raffle, hypothetically, for your NFT. You post your account number to a public forum. You can never, ever
Unpost.
refuse.
You can never unpost it.
You can never unpost that, but this is another thing they don't talk about. You cannot refuse an incoming transaction, ever.
Ooh.
Because you are not allowed. The chain and the ledger make no distinction between a transfer and a purchase.
Oof.
And what that means is that, now here's the thing, you'd be like, well, why would I want to refuse somebody sending me something? Right? Okay, so when if it's
Jake and I can think of a couple reasons.
I will give you a couple of reasons, everybody, to
Jake,
why you might want to. Now, here's the thing: you might think, oh, it's money. They're just giving me money. Yeah, yes, someone could transfer you money. Someone could spend money and give it to you. But these are NFTs, totally different. NFTs carry code in them. Here's something someone could could mint. They can mint a picture of their dick,
Yeah.
and they can send it to you, and then you would have to pay the transaction fees to get that picture out of your fucking wallet.
Yeah.
They can also mint an NFT that carries multiple sources of malware that will steal every NFT and immediately transfer those NFTs out of your wallet if you click on it. And that means that permanently there's a fucking bomb inside of your wallet that you would have to pay to get rid of. They could mint a
Ransomware.
picture of your front door and send it to you. They could do any number of these things.
Oh,
And you would have to pay for the privilege of getting it out of your fucking wallet.
When 5 minutes later, the guy that just did you like that, 5 minutes later, the guy shows up and says, "Hey, you should contact this guy to get things fixed for you." It's just fucking ransomware all over again at that point.
yes. Also, I'm glad you did not bring up the one thing Jenk and I obviously thought of.
Yeah.
And then the
immediately.
second thing we
I
thought
said
of, which
dick
are my
pics.
songs. No, you know what we were thinking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's my songs from chat. I can just encode those in so that when you compile the code, you just have one of my songs from chat that Jenk so wonderfully loves.
And
It's
these
true.
NFTs,
And I would pay to get rid of it.
Yes.
these NFTs, as long as the servers exist, these ledgers exist as well. And you don't have it's a read-only access to these things, but you can see what's in. You can see these NFTs essentially if you have the access to the information to read the ledger to find the code to fucking post them. Essentially. So here's the thing: if somebody mints, and I know Dan, you wanted me to keep this topic off, so I'll just say.
Oh no,
child
we can
abuse
talk
and-
about. Wait, we've done it all. I am impressed with everybody's work tonight. You go off, King.
So if you mint an image that is an image of child abuse, let's just leave it at that.
You said the thing.
Mhm.
You said the thing.
We
damn
weren't
it.
supposed
I
to
didn't
say
say-
the
I
thing.
didn't-
We weren't supposed to say the thing.
Yeah.
Fuck you two. Anyway,
I
if you mint one
how
of
many
these-
episodes have just turned into libertarians and that? I was
What?
trying.
When you're
Okay.
the one talking about child abuse and we're the ones being attacked. There, see, I can do it, Dan.
Yeah. Yeah, why are we being attacked? Actually, I'm with you on this one, buddy. 100%
Yeah, I know.
full
That's
stop.
because I'm doing it, Dan.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's the point. If you mint one of those things, one of those images, they effectively can't be deleted. Now, someone might offer the service of being a trash bin where you can transfer the any NFT to it, and essentially that person will just never touch them because they're all like, it's garbage.
They're all
essentially, right?
bombs. Every single one of them is a ticking
single one
time
of them is
bomb.
terrible.
Unless
And they're
you're
like,
one of those
I'm gonna,
awful
like-
people who finds that awesome, then you're just a trash bomb.
The problem is that they're
Point of
not
order.
actually 100% deleted at that point.
Oh no.
They still exist within the ledger,
Oh yeah.
and somebody has to pay those gas fees, quote unquote, for the privilege of transferring it to a different wallet.
Oh
you
yeah.
could just weaponize this
got
shit
him.
later, like depleted uranium shells. You could just
It
weaponize
is
it all over
literally
again,
like
send it to
that.
some other prick.
Well,
That's right.
it's not technically
It
that.
gets better whenever you're both the trash can and the trash distributor.
Yeah. It's not technically that. What you're thinking more is mutually assured destruction, because remember, if you had these things, you're on the chain too. So the people who are going to be trading in these things in this form are going to be people who were invested in the first place. And if the feds ever get their shit together, the feds. And that's when the game's really going to collapse. Like, let's be real, the NFT game is going to collapse the moment the feds catch wind of the child porn on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That's really a thing?
150%. The
Good
NFTs.
lord.
Yeah, NFTs are just a way to launder child porn. Every time I see a Bored Ape, I'm like, you know what? If I had the real code for that, like these people want me to have, it's just riddled with child porn. Like, it produces the Bored Ape image, but I guarantee it's a pure mosaic. And for that much like deep red color, it is a violent fucking mosaic. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, I'm laughing and half choking. I'm crawning out. I got the crawn.
Yeah, you got the chronic, son. Yeah,
So,
I'm right. Like,
Calling it now?
I noticed nobody wants to refute how right I am on that point. Like,
No, no.
'Cause you're right.
yeah, yeah. That's
it's certainly possible.
It's certainly probable.
You shouldn't harness
This
the
thing
crime
created
like
by
that.
libertarians is riddled with child porn. That is
Abuse.
the most shocking thing I have ever
It's a twist
heard.
ending. It's a twist ending, just
It
as we
is,
promised.
it is kind of a twist ending in that the end. It is an ending.
Okay, let's say I am a Putin Russian lover, but I am that in secret. If people send me a mint of Putin wrestling a bear, who will find that I am a Putin Russian lover? There are plenty of great reasons to buy Putin wrestling a bear NFTs. The least of which is the most obvious. That sounds
Okay.
awesome.
I will try to answer that question, which is that depending on the auction house site that you use for this, because there's a bunch of services that, here's the thing, most people can't actually fucking do this stuff with the ledger themselves, because accessing the ledger and processing a transaction manually yourself and submitting these transactions yourself requires both you and the person as part of the transaction to know how to access those things, have computers that are strong enough to do it, have a connection that's strong enough to do it, be able to pay the fees, etc.
Yeah.
It is easier to use an auction house. That's basically what they call these things, an auction house that provides the service of making this a little bit easier. However, many, not all, but many auction houses require you to register actual personal information to associate with your wallet.
It's starting to sound like the permanence of the blockchain is not always good. I mean, if you go back 20 years ago, a trolling site that I won't name used to do a thing called last measure, where they would make your computer screen just blow up with goatse a bunch of times. And, you couldn't, you'd have to ask them to stop or whatever, but you could throw your computer away. You could be like, I got last measured. There's goatse all over my computer. I'm going to throw this thing in the garbage. But with the blockchain, you can't do that shit.
No.
You get goatse, you're goatse, man.
So
Extra
this
goatee
is
for your goatee.
You're goatse with the sauce.
to just reference just a few more pieces of this. Most of these websites that have these auction houses, they usually at least require an email, but often require more information than that, because these are actually taxable entities. These ones that run, they're collecting the fucking fees, and you best believe that, like, as middlemen, they want to actually make money and cash out of this shit. Because again, most of the time, the money to be made here is being middlemen and having platforms. It's not to fucking actually do it yourself.
It's just rent.
And
It's just rent.
So they will actually be liable to the government if their shit is used for illegal means, which means that they don't want that, which means that some of your information is going to be fucking public. It just is. Right. So if you use one of these, if you're not doing this shit all manually yourself, which you almost certainly aren't, most people aren't.
Most people can't.
Yeah.
Right.
Then, you should just assume your shit's public in some capacity. And that's the other thing about this stuff too, just generally speaking. The reality where you have to manage multiple wallets, manage what's in them, not get fucking nuked with tons of just fucking porn into your wallet constantly, it is a hell world. It just is. It's a worse. I think it is fun. I think on some levels it is really worse than the reality that we currently exist in. I don't think it's better. I definitely don't think it's better. It's just shifting the masters who currently reside over us around slightly.
If you think it through, and you know how I always say libertarianism is the vulgar form of liberalism. Who wins in this scenario? Let's say we were to do this stupid idea. Who actually wins in this scenario? People like Elon Musk don't actually win because you can't market that you invented the blockchain. Elon doesn't do much, if any, fucking actual engineering because he doesn't actually have any talent in it. So people like him who are at the top of the meritocracy right now, right, at essentially by being pure bullshitters, they don't win anymore. Who wins? It's the people who can devote their lives to this stupid bullshit and victimize others as a result. So
it's beautiful, really, because as you laid out earlier with the history of currency, if this all fell apart, he'd go right back to mining fucking emeralds, right? God damn, that's fucking harsh.
you know what? Honestly, I've been hearing a lot of stories now. They just may have had like controlling interest in an emerald mine. They may not actually own that emerald mine, which means that if he actually had to get a real job, he would not have a real job to get.
That's
Listen.
fantastic.
Listen, you can't just copy my emerald mine, okay? You can't just right click and save my emerald mine.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. It's on a chain.
My apologies for your emerald mine chain. So, but yeah, if you think about this, if you logic it through, who's it for? It's for the nerds who are going to sit and do this all day. Which, at that point, if the world revolves around that, they win the meritocracy. So libertarians and liberals essentially have the same fucking idea, right? And they're all moving towards the technocracy. Liberals just have this fucking delusion that somehow they're not going to be the losers in it. Libertarians are gunning to be the winners. But there's
It's just
nothing.
a priesthood versus one priesthood versus another.
Yeah, there's nothing at all intrinsically different about how they think about the world. They just they have a, I'll be generous, a gentleman's disagreement about who ought to be at the top of the hierarchy. Right? They believe they should be merited, like liberals believe they should be merited because they already have all the wealth, and libertarians believe they should be merited because they have this one fucking perfunctory skill that behaves in no more or less arcane ways than finance does right now. Tell those nerds to get a job. Yeah, kind of, I guess.
We tried.
I'm not far off from that position, if I were to be honest. You could put all your creativity in this dumb fucking bullshit that is just a niche speculative asset for rich people, and you're still getting fucked, or you could solve a real problem with this insane amount of fucking talent you have, because you could put their transactions on a ledger and make them accountable for when they buy children. But, you're not doing that. You're just like, I better come up with a better technology for buying children. Right?
The irony I find in this too is the aptly named, right? It's art, right? In the same sense that you can purchase an artist for about 10 grand to commission an art piece if you're a multimillionaire.
You guys already know how I
billionaire.
feel. I had a meltdown about this last night when I was being overtaken by the Cron, or that might have been 2 nights ago. It's blurry.
Yeah. No, you're Jake. You're absolutely right.
And fucking take it to your appraiser friend, get it appraised for $2 million after you've paid $10,000 for it. Donate it to a museum, write it off, and avoid all your taxes that way. Like they just keep finding more interesting ways to do it. Yeah. I guess is my thing.
100. I'll stop you when you're wrong.
Yeah. I feel like at least in the other way, the $10,000 artist way, one, you're supporting an artist. Like, there is, in theory, someone there gaining out of that. And two, you get a piece of art out of it at the end of the day that you can't just right click and save. Literally.
Yeah.
Like, you're getting all of the negative and none of the positive.
If we were to take the legitimate uses, the difference is it's much easier to move one piece of art than the other, right?
It's not that hard to move art anymore. It really isn't. Maybe once upon a time it was.
If the supply chains are anything to talk about, yeah, it's apparently more difficult. Yeah,
it does have a cost.
It has a cost. The cost is infinitely smaller, and it's just essentially put on by middlemen. There is no cost to moving it in the NFT world. That's one thing. Number two, the speed at which I can move the art to show my reliability as a seller and a buyer is dramatically increased, and these things often are a game of information, right? Information plus trust, right? So in that regard, the NFT could have a limited niche use in that specifically only. However, like as and Jenk, again, you'll agree, the actual physical art piece sits on your wall. I don't have to run a computer monitor 24/7 to show off the art piece I bought.
Yeah, it's way less destructive for the environment too, really.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Not to mention, you can take a quick look at that art piece and determine whether or not it is child pornography.
Right.
That is an advantage to it, for sure.
Do you consider the extension of the notion of property already? No, I deem that an Econ 102 level.
Yeah, we might hit this again. We
Oh.
were already talking that we might hit this again, folks.
I'll hit
this
it
is a big
so
one.
hard.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground tonight.
Yeah, tonight was
so-
a very dense theory episode, and I think for the next lecture, I will happily talk about notions of property. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, property itself is pretty like if I were to go real radical, property itself is pretty much a fucking abstraction, right? Because once I'm dead, all that shit is ephemeral. It's gone. It's not mine
Yeah.
anymore. So like we're really talking some radical shit there, and this might not be the night to get into that one. But as it relates to blockchain and NFTs, I'm certainly game to play this one because oh boy, does good old Carl remain right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Why do people seem to dislike NFT people? They're annoying grifters. That's why. It's the
Yeah.
same reason, like, if I was more serious about trying to make money off this podcast, I would be no different than one of those annoying grifters.
It's just that feeling that somebody just walked up and put their hand in your pocket. It's just
Yeah.
that feeling, man. It's gross. You know, like we all go out and, push like boxes and shit around and do stuff. And, we build our little things and sell our labor and everything. And they just have this attitude like that means that we're a bunch of stupid suckers. And it's conceivable that under the current system, you could say that we were, but, don't walk up and say that shit to my fucking face. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, they have this attitude,
Yeah, Giovanni, I've never been afraid to say when I thought Marx was wrong. Marx ain't wrong about a fucking lot. That's why you can trust in Marx. When he's right, he's right. I mean, these are motherfuckers who are trying to essentially. Now there is a little bit of a misquotation here because Marx says like capitalists try to go through periods of. They try to go through periods where they try to make money avoiding human labor, but like we have to remember two things. One, machines are reservoirs of human labor, no more, no less. Like that's it. The hammer.
Yeah, the labor happened just because you were born after computers were already invented. It doesn't it's not magic. It happened.
No, it fucking happened. Somebody built the goddamn computer. The computer allows us to multiply and it acts as a reservoir of human labor.
The number of semiconductors that exist is in the septillions now.
Yeah.
But I mean, they all came from somewhere.
Yeah, congealed or frozen labor. So really, these NFTs and this crypto commodity, right? I don't want to call it a currency anymore. I don't even like doing that. But this crypto commodity is still just a reserve of human labor, right? It's all extrapolated down from and it just like an actual fucking capitalism. Like if you were buying a Sprite, what goes into the Sprite can? Somebody had to make the fucking paint. Somebody had to make the can. Somebody had to make the liquid. Somebody had to put the liquid into the can. Right? Somebody made the machine that does these actions. Somebody made the machine that transports it. Somebody put it in the fucking packaging. The amount of human labor congealed in any one commodity is staggering, and it represents like the labor going back to the advent of the can. The person who buys it has an exchange value. They did that because they labored and produced into this ephemeral aether. Yeah, there's a chain of toil, right? We already exist in a fucking blockchain and a record. It's just you don't remember everybody involved in it.
Or if you're a libertarian, then you vehemently deny that all these other people communally came together to give rise to your existence, because that would mean that you were like owned by them or something.
Yeah, because they're fucking stupid and they want to be these fucking rugged individualists while they're sipping on fucking coke and getting high on cocaine. And I can tell you, there's a shit ton of labor that goes into both of those things, and it's all at the behest of a gun ultimately. All right, Twit Dan, what did you say? Twitter Dan. If I already know that the whole NFT and cryptocurrency is rigged by a centralized agency, would I be stupid to join in the whole thing anyway? I feel a feeling of FOMO. Look, here's the thing. Again, to be serious and agree with John, we're not financial advisors. You do what you want. There is money to be made there. It's whether or not you can make the money off of it. You will, mathematically speaking, there will be no crypto billionaires.
Yeah,
except for already existing billionaires.
Know what you're doing, I mean, guys like us are going to respect you if you say, well, I grifted or I did some lazy shit. We're going to respect you. But if you try to say that, you innovated or you answer to higher calling and evolved or whatever, we're gonna say fuck you, piece of shit.
Yeah, if you tell us, hey, I bought 42 penis coin, and penis coin became $100 a piece, and I got super lucky. If you say that, good for you. Fuck yeah, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dick
There's-
token.
So
We love
Yeah,
gambling.
there's no
Get pro
ethical
gambling.
gambling.
Dick
consumption,
coins.
man. Don't worry about ethical
Gambling
consumption.
is fun.
Yeah, we're
Gambling
pro
is fun.
gambling. Get it.
Yo, absolutely. That's why Jenk and I really get along. It's because we love gambling. That
We know what we choose for gambling.
yeah.
And also, we don't fool ourselves into thinking that we're not gambling when we clearly are.
yeah, we
Yeah,
love
and
the
if we
fucking
see
gamble.
guys posting stuff like, "Oh, I lost all my money gambling," then we're just gonna laugh about it. We're not gonna be like, "Oh, that wasn't fair" or whatever.
Yeah, that's
Gio,
on you. Don't lose all your money gambling.
I'll tell
Yeah.
you what. I'm going to answer this. This is a straight up housekeeping question, Giovanni. If you join in on Twitch when we actually have other viewers, like tonight, because we did a hot button topic, you get to join in that chat. It might be worth it. You do not have to actually subscribe to shit. You can just go in and comment, which is cool. And we're certainly not like, oh, Twitch users, we don't run those fucking games. Our grift is straight up. We'd like it if you join Patreon for $5 a month. It would help us buy better equipment and put on a better show. It is not mandatory. We are perfectly comfortable with our low budget bullshit.
Yep. Dead ass.
Dead ass. But you do get to join in more of the chat, and I don't have to read the chats to you and vice versa. Oh, so that's why people buy Dogcoin. It's because of the meme potential. That's how it started out, and then just like all of these commodities, it got traded, and now it has value.
Yeah.
That's the thing when people, I personally get bothered sometimes when people are like, well, money doesn't actually have any real value. It's only what you put into it. It's not fucking true. At the very basic level, somebody manufactured the commodity that we call money. They manufacture it as a means of exchange so that other values can be exchanged more efficiently.
There's a race of technology that's present there, just like the one that Dan laid out for all currency. At some point, people were making fake money and they put a little strip in it. It took effort and labor to make it, continue on.
It is an incredible amount of frozen labor just to make the machine to allow us to exchange labor value. So that actually bothers the shit out of me. If I'm going to be dead ass honest, when people say that like that's some sort of a trump card, but it's not really though. It's certainly not the same thing.
That's some shit that the guy. That's some shit that the guy says to you at your first acid or mushrooms party when you're a teenager or something.
Yeah.
Man, everything's fake. It's all our no shit.
okay.
Yeah, give me something valuable.
Yeah.
This is the final piece of analysis that I've got, and then I actually have to dip, unfortunately. But here it is, which is that hypothetically, if it occurred to you that this is okay, so it's all bullshit, but I could make money, right? I could be the one that gets somebody with this. Then you're the sucker because you are currently the market, which is to say that you are the person that the people who control these centralized systems of servers that can control forks and whatnot is pitching to. They want to rip off people who have an innate desire to rip people off.
Yeah.
And this is evidenced by the fact that currently in NFT discords, if you join one of them, it is considered poor form. It is bad taste if the person who minted the NFTs, who runs the server, doesn't do fake wallet grifting, which is to say they transfer their ape from, this is the example is the ape, but it doesn't matter, it's NFTs broadly. They transfer their ape or their NFT from one wallet they own to another wallet they own and send money from the wallet that they own to another wallet that they own, which is to say they do a stunt purchase where they just transfer their own money in large quantities.
Right,
and then
it makes it look like the ape's valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're an idiot
what's
for not
important
doing
there
that.
is that if the person running your NFT, running the Discord that has all of the NFT community in it, if the person running that Discord doesn't do that, that's like bad taste. That's like, oh, he should be doing that for us because it could pump our stuff.
Yeah.
Like, why isn't he already doing that for us? So that's the community that does this stuff. And again, we are not financial advisors, but it is certainly off-putting, if you ask me. So
It's no different than when people buy Coke, ultimately. And you can take that as cocaine, or you can take that
No.
as Coca-Cola. It is
is
not
different because at least then you get Coke, and you can take
well-
that as cocaine, or you can take that as Coke.
Okay, in that regard, yes, got me on a technicality, got my ass. But essentially, what happens is somebody has a pile of shit, and they want to exchange it into actual values. That's all that's happening. So it's not so much a grift. It would be criminal if they weren't doing that. That's where I kind of disagree. And with the Marx versus like the Chud thing there, like kind of, but not really, because Marx would never say that money had no value. Again, as a simple commodity, it has a fuck ton of congealed human labor. As a means of exchange, it allows you to exchange human labors. Marx groans. Like if Marx were alive and he heard that, he might swing on you. You might be catching Marx's hands for saying shit like that. Yeah, that's where the Chud memers would be like saying that, and like that's like problem numero uno. They don't read their fucking theory, right? Because like Marx would never say that a commodity has no fucking value. The only time a commodity doesn't have a commodity value, i.e. an exchange value, is when you don't want to fucking exchange it. Otherwise, you say shit like that, you're catching hands. Like, and he was the kind of guy who would just get drunk and start fighting you in public. Like, over dumb shit like that. Like he would just be like, fuck, in German, fuck you, you fucking dumbass. You don't deserve to be here. You shouldn't be.
The 1850s, it was a rough time,
You in the middle of COVID, yeah. I was thinking if I get a ton of shit, and then I can have it fun taking that poop and build a small hut or small poop.
All right, I gotta dip,
juggling a
everybody,
few
but have a
poops.
good night.
Yeah, you have a good night.
Our pleasure as always, sir.
I read it. I read about poops. I don't know why. That one you got me, chat. I don't know what that one is. Yeah. I really like the idea of Mark's making people catch hands. He used to fucking fist fight at those fucking meetings too.
All day.
Yeah.
I mean, all day. I mean, it was before anybody had come out and brainwashed everybody into like, oh, you can never ever like.
Yeah.
It was before that.
Yeah. No, like okay. Like, do you actually know how Marx and Engels became friends?
No.
Okay, so Engels was like kind of an anarchist type, right? And he certainly lived like a fucking anarchist. We're talking like he had a throuple, he and his girlfriends would fuck whoever they wanted. And Marx found him personally to be like a distasteful piece of shit, right? And he was like really annoyed with the guy when he talked. But then they happened to be at a meeting together, and Marx had said something, and Engels was like, "Holy shit, this guy's right." And Engels was just like, "Dude, can you tell me more about that?" And Marx was like, "Okay," and he started talking to him about it. And then they like Engels was like, "Wait, but that would mean this," and Marx was like, "Fuck, you're right." And then they were like, "Oh shit, the meeting's over. Everybody's mad at us because I insulted everybody at the meeting." Like that's Carl, right? Yeah, I made fun of everybody at the meeting for being a stupid fucking moron.
I mean, that's not shocking. I mean, that's like
No.
I mean, like
Classic Marx.
Yeah.
that's the historical, that's the dialectic, right? Is that the
Yeah.
two guys that actually gave a fuck like bumped into each other by chance, and then all these other fucking fucking posers like flaked off, like they didn't want to take that ride. Like,
Well, no, I mean he was just at war with people in the International, whereas like Engels was like, holy shit, this guy's fucking brilliant. Why is nobody listening to him? He's a fucking genius. And then Engels like started basically not only complimenting him, but he said something that like Marx was like, fuck, you're right. Hold on, let me think about this for a minute. And then they were like bullshitting or whatever. And then he's like, you wouldn't just go get fucking hammered at the bar. And like Engels is like, fuck yeah, can we keep bullshitting about this? And he's like, fuck yeah. And they had a total like stepbrothers esque moment where they just got fucking piss hammered at the bar. And then like they were like after that they were like they kept in communication and eventually became the dynamic duo that we know and love. But at first like Marx was just a fucking cantankerous piece of shit and hated everybody. And he was like, that guy's fucking stupid. Like, the guy really was just a perpetual incessant asshole. Like in many ways I model myself after Marx, and that happens to be one of them. Like everybody I like, I'm like, you're a fucking piece of shit. Fucking moron. But then like if anybody were to call any of you morons, I'd be like, you know what, God, you can fuck yourself. That guy knows more about that than you'll ever fucking be able to read. My Chinese anime can't be wrong. Yeah, there was no like they didn't just brilliantly No, they were like Marx was a dick, and then Engels happened to be hanging out at the same place, and then like Marx started a fight, and Engels backed him and was like, "Ah, this guy's a genius. You're all fucking stupid. I want to hang out with him," which Marx was easily flattered, by the way.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, when you get no love or attention, I'm scared to get myself in a wallet where I can have NFT in it. I mean, here's the thing, man. Like, don't hang out at childpornnfts.com. Like, you should be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
But like, just know, like, the people who are selling them to you are absolutely trying to grift you. Just like the grocery store, there is absolutely fundamentally no difference. It is the same grift. They want your
Yeah.
money. So if you think you can want their money, them, have at it, Hosh. You probably have some fun gambling on it. If you have money to burn in gambling, fucking have at it. It's gambling. If you're like looking
it's
for
just gambling.
if you're looking for a sound investment strategy, this is not the place to be.
No.
It's not a sound investment strategy, in
No.
our opinion.
No, we would not encourage anybody to do it for their fucking
For-
financial well-being.
But
Yeah.
before we go, I just want to shout out the TikTokers that are copying Nancy Pelosi's portfolio.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
Geniuses.
Hilarious.
it is really stupid that the Democratic Party is like, we're now the party of the rich elites, and we think stock trading in Congress is fine.
Yeah.
That was the way to lay bare the contradiction that like, okay, well then like, you've sealed the deal, and we'll see how elections go, because like I can say this, legally speaking, I can't tell you how to vote. Okay, there are state laws in place in my state that say I can't tell you how to vote. However, I can tell you that if you want to stab back at the Democratic
I
Party and
can.
teach them a
Fuck
lesson,
that.
I can't. That's all I can say is I cannot. So let's play the game. You ready? It would be a sound strategy in 2024 that if they say not to run, at the very least, and I'm going to be real generous here, an Elizabeth Warren for candidate. Okay. And I'm being very generous with Liz because I have said on several occasions I'm not happy with how she's acted.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not going to run at least a Liz Warren. You have no reason to vote.
Yeah.
If in any particular office, there is no strategy where voting for the wealthy Democrats or the fucking awful MAGA monsters, there is no strategy where that's actually sound because they've evidenced themselves to be functionally the same. It doesn't matter if it's Marjorie Taylor Greene or Joe Manchin fucking me over. What matters is whether or not I'm getting fucked over. So if they want to make that the game, if you're not running at least a fucking Elizabeth Warren progressive, and I'm being excruciatingly generous, there is no reason to vote.
It doesn't matter whether it's the government or, your boss at your job or the cops or just some bully in your neighborhood. It comes down to whether or not you can organize to stop them from functionally immiserating you.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. And it makes you feel powerless if you think that you can't organize right now or that you'll fail or whatever. But, that's neither here nor there. You definitely don't want to get all fired up and think that something's going to change. Because they won this or that election instead of, tanking and losing 80 mil or 40 mil like they did last time. You don't want to get all pumped up and think something's going to change, and then nothing does. You're just going to be all fucking sad. You're going to feel even more powerless. That's exactly what they fucking want.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to leave it at this. I know if the analysis is going to be, am I either going to get fucked by Joe Manchin, or fucked by Kristen Sinema, or fucked by, who's that fucking ghoul that was like, childcare isn't our problem?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Which Republican ghoul was that?
Oh, God, that was so fucking... That was a North Carolina dude.
Yeah.
I think. Oh, my God.
If you're going to run people in that vein, who are either feckless and do nothing, like a Pete Buttigieg or a fucking Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, who have no fucking ability to do anything, or who will get steamrolled by the Joe Manchin types, who get their fucking pussies turned out.
Yeah.
Now you tell me what fucking benefit there is to voting. If you're not running a progressive, there's no absolutely at all logical reason to vote.
Yeah.
So, in terms of economics, if you're only going to offer horse piss and cow piss to drink out of the soda
You should
pop
probably
can,
just choose to not drink.
Yeah, don't have a drink. Go somewhere else. Invest your energy elsewhere. And they'll be like, well, people are voting for the Democrats. Well, the Democrats aren't going to do anything.
Yeah. What about that cat in Florida that was driving the Prius? I mean, no matter how he voted, that cat was still going to walk up to him, a Republican congressperson or state administrator or whatever the fuck that asshole was, literally tried to kill him in broad daylight.
Yeah.
He had to fucking shoot that guy. Like that's a pretty raw analogy, but I don't know if it is an analogy. I mean, like, he voted however he voted. He waited for things to change. And then one of them physically tried to kill him in broad daylight for driving wrong.
And he
So
fucking handled the problem.
he sure did.
He sure did. And that's what it boils down to, man. If we're gonna play fucking games, let's play fucking. They talk about game theory, right? These motherfuckers love game theory. So I'll lay some goddamn game theory for you. If choosing option A, B, or C does not change the quality of your life for the positive, and the game is change your life for the quality of the positive, right? Then option C, which is not doing anything, actually does change your life for the positive because you haven't wasted your energy on that and you can go do something you'd rather be doing.
Yeah.
So if you're not going to offer that as a potential, fuck it. Who
You can
cares?
move on down to whatever their next move is. Like, if you think, oh well, after they get in office, they're going to try to do this. Maybe I'll go organize some people that might be able to stop them from doing that.
Yeah.
In reality, in the material world.
Right.
Can I get an NFT of an organization?
NFTorg.
NForg.
NFTorg. Non-fungible organization. Yeah, but I mean, really, like, again, I'm not telling you not to vote. I'm just telling you what is the goddamn sense in it.
Yeah.
And honestly, I've always been like, if other people don't vote, I completely understand why they're not going to. I still probably should. Life will be tangentially better. But really, I've been wrong every time. I'm bad at voting. I'm okay in admitting that. Time for me to get wiser with my vote.
Yeah, I'm like 0 for like a shit ton of
What?
votes in my
Admitting
lifetime.
they're wrong? No.
Oh, the other Dems don't have to do it. The other Dems,
No.
let's see how far. Let's play a game with them. Let's play a game at, like, excuse me, I can't say that. I am going to play a game of chicken with them. It's that simple. You're either going to run the candidate I want as the fucking vocal minority, or fuck you. You don't have to play that game with me. You are not required to, but that is certainly the game I'm going to be playing.
And we geared up to do this last time, and a lot of people let themselves get shouted down or shamed out of it or whatever. But they responded when we geared up to do that. You couldn't even go on fake ass Twitter or Facebook or whatever and post like, well, I don't think I'm gonna vote, without 10 or 20 of them jumping up your fucking asshole and trying to punch you in the fucking
right.
Yeah, I mean it obviously they felt like that you were serious, but we backed off on it. Most people that I know backed off on that shit.
And let's relate that to simple economics. If option A is lose $5,000, option B is lose $3,000, and option C is lose nothing, convince me to lose $3,000. You kind of can't. You like your game theory, motherfucker? There it is. Right back up your own asses.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to blow the hole out. I'm crawling out. Jesus.
Yeah.
Crawling
It would be
out.
with the crawling out, bro.
Touch of the crawn.
Yeah.
It would be, bro.
It's true what they say. I mean, like, this morning, like, my dick was so tiny, It's true.
It is definitely only affected by the crawn.
Yeah, I got no dick at all now.
No, that checks
Although,
out.
there is, like, there's some guys, though, like, it kind of slows you down, right? Like, there's some guys that have got new abilities after getting infected with it.
Superpowers?
Yeah, like, I saw this guy that could rap all of a sudden. Like, have you guys seen that guy Lil Kron on SoundCloud?
No.
Like, I can't rap. I'm white as fucking popcorn. Like, if I try to rap, it's always like, Jordan Peterson.
My name is True, and I'm here to say.
Right.
The rappinest white person never did say.
Or I'll be like Dan Bongino, ex-cops or vaginos or whatever. Like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
But like Lil Kron, man, that dude has the fire all of a sudden. Like, I went on SoundCloud and he was like We sling magic cards like rocks on the corner. Get your dingus egg and your bootleg porn, sir. Omicron Prime. I'm a transformer. I make pigs into bacon like Chris fucking Dorner. That kid, all of a sudden, could just rap. It was weird.
Well, that
It
kid
was
is
weird.
cool. That is a cool
He
thing
was
to say and do.
he was like, I sell so much coke. Call me Let's Snow Brandon. Your girl has ran through wider than the Grand Canyon. Prius killer caught a body. No hard aim, no HUD. Canadian truckers call those pussies snow chuds. It was weird. It
It's weird
like
how cool this guy is.
he's totally, it was incredible. He was like, they're burning their Carhartt like I burned your mom. She sucked me like the Saudis. Niam, niam, niam. Like, that's fire. Haters
Dude,
crying about mini and green M&Ms. When Tucker nuts, it makes his bow tie spin. It was incredible.
listen,
Like,
I'm already sold. I don't know why you keep going.
I'd never heard anything
It
like
only
that.
gets so erect.
I can't do it.
That's because we don't sell dick pills. Once we get you free samples of dick pills, you get hard again, buddy.
Oh yeah, and I'll have I'll have a normal sized dick again.
Right.
I'll be back to my 10 and a half. Flaccid. It'll be normal again.
It sounds kind of small, actually, 10 and a half flaccid.
Well, I mean,
when's
it's
the last time you measured that?
Yeah,
it's
you
a shower,
sure?
not it's a grower, not a shower.
I guess, but it still seems tiny. That just sounds like an abnormally small penis.
But no, little Kron. Little
At least to
Kron.
me, my frame of reference is distorted. So
Keep little Kron on your radar, everybody. That guy's gonna blow up on SoundCloud. It
All right.
like I say, the Omicron. It's like if you drank a lot of cough syrup, and
yeah,
And I will be releasing Little Kron NFTs in the coming weeks.
yeah, absolutely.
I'm just gonna.
I would.
I'm just gonna put pictures of my perfectly normally sized 14-inch penis.
Yeah.
Those are gonna be my NFTs.
Somebody asked
Yeah,
him.
no times about it. I'm not gonna touch
Somebody asked
NFT or crypto.
Great news. You can't say no to them.
Somebody
Listen.
asked him about Russia, and he was like, "It's the final bout. Can we sit one out? Lethal aid is out." What you talking about?
Chat,
No
chat,
Hunter
chat,
Biden.
chat,
Ukraine's linked.
chat, chat. Hold on, chat. You listen. You go. You gamble on it or you don't.
Yeah,
You do
yeah.
what you will. You do what
That's our
you will,
point.
comrade. Otherwise, it's 12:23. I'm
Oh,
tired
fuck,
of
really?
shit. Yeah,
Shit,
it's time to
God.
go to bed. It's beddy
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So,
Oh.
this has been the Sons of Trier. I'm Dan Cohen. I was joined by John Sinclair, no longer present. Michael Jordan Peterson. Joined by True Horror and joined by Jank Engels. Last but certainly
Yo.
not least. Absolutely. And you come back next Friday. We'll be doing this again because we're losers with no lives on a Friday night. But for
Oh,
like
hell
6
yeah.
times a year.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good
fuck
night,
yeah.
America.
All right. Good night. Love you. Don't
night.
die. Don't die.
I
please.
love
Don't die.
you. Don't die. Be
Love you.
safe.
Stream is